To enjoy the bull market in gold, visit futuremoneytrends.com/fortune.
Hello, everyone, and welcome into crushthestreet.com. Today, we're going to have a very, very serious conversation with the one and only Bill Holter of jsmindset.com. Really a guy that is just on top of the markets, really has a pulse for the global markets, precious metals, and just what's going on geopolitically. And he's on the line with me today. And you know what? In this pre-interview here, he is telling me here that the next 8 days are going to be the most dangerous in world history, and he's got some analysis for this. Bill Holter, thanks for coming on the line with me.
Thank you, Kenneth.
Well, if you wouldn't mind, please share your analysis with us and why the next week or so is going to be so significant for us, the world.
Well, just look at what has already transpired. You had the UN vote, which we did not veto, first time in however many years. I mean, the U.S. has consistently vetoed that. We are amassing troops, tanks. We basically invaded Poland and put these troops and tanks on Russia's border. You look at what Tillerson said this morning regarding the Spratly Islands. The point being, and of course, with the change over to Trump, those losing power don't want to lose power. You could even see something financially. You could see George Soros try to upset world markets. The point being, those losing power don't want to lose power, and the question is, will they kick the table over before Trump takes office? And then, going one step further, when Trump gets in, I know you want to talk about this more in depth, but when Trump gets in, he's got a decision to make. Is he going to continue the facade, or is he going to continue as head of the Exchange Stabilization Fund? Is he going to continue the manipulation, or is he going to let markets clear? And what would the world look like if markets were to actually clear?
Bill, when it comes to Trump, a lot of people are concerned about, the picks he has made. And, for instance, the Goldman Sachs, Steve Mnuchin. And, you know what? We're talking about the choices that he has to make. I mean, do you think Trump is going to be genuine and, crush the manipulation and allow markets to clear? Or is he going to allow this to continue to go in the direction it's going?
First off, if markets clear, you're looking at smoking black holes everywhere, because if markets clear, then the derivatives pyramid comes down. Now, yes, he's got a lot of picks. I think there's 4 people from Goldman Sachs. But if you look at who he's chosen, he's chosen people who are friendly to gold. They're friendly to hard money. And my opinion is, and we will obviously soon find out, my opinion is Trump is real. Trump is a true American and wants to do what's best for America.
When I was watching the news conference this week that Trump was heading up there and, addressing everyone, I was very happy when he called out CNN as fake news. And I think that's a really strong statement, and that he's not beholden to the establishment, which is so much, and it's been proven time and time again that, the mainstream media, CNN in particular, and some of these other ones, are part of the establishment agenda. And he called him out on it. That was a huge statement.
Yeah, it was. And as you know, I started this year off writing 2017, the year of the truth bomb. And like I said, we will see shortly, but I think what you're seeing out of Trump is he relishes the truth. We'll find out. And won't tolerate fake news.
Right. Well, the problems seem to be escalating in Europe. Deutsche Bank, with all the problems that they've had, and then, now we're hearing about Montepiasci, 8.8 billion euro bailout in Italy. And, what are your thoughts? Is this going to be the trigger point for, the global breakdown?
Well, the odds of Europe unraveling are obviously increasing. The first thread was Brexit. Then you saw the populist vote. There would not have been a Trump if there wasn't a Brexit. Then you saw the Italian vote. Now we have, next is the French vote, and later in the year, the German vote. From a geopolitical standpoint, I think you could see Europe begin to dissolve. From a financial standpoint, their banking system, it's not, and John Embry said this the other day, the banks are not going broke, the banks are broke. All of these big banks are counterparties to each other in the derivatives pyramid.
Right.
And it basically means that if you have just one bank, but it's many, but if you have just one bank that fails, then you have counterparty defaults. And that leads to, if you want to call it, everything's worth nothing.
Well, one of the interesting things you actually just said there was that without a Brexit, there wouldn't be a Trump victory. And now you're calling 2017, the truth bomb year. And that really lends itself, one to another, that the truth is being exposed to a greater degree, as time progresses. And, we have, the French vote coming up, the German vote coming up. I mean, what is this potentially going to look like?
It's going to be really ugly. Every article that I've written so far this year has had this theme of the truth coming forward, the unveiling of the truth. And we have lived, we've truly, our standard of living has been way, way, way above what it should have been. And that pulled, if you want to call it, forward standard of living back towards today. We're going to have to pay that off, and paying it off is more or less revealing that the hologram standard of living that we've had has been false. So I guess if you want to look at it from an energy standpoint, and I'm not talking about oil energy, I'm talking about karmic energy, if you will. For every year that we lived above our standard, we're going to have to, in the future, live that much below what our standard would have been. So the saying, payback's a bitch, that's what it's going to be. I mean, we're going to pay for all of the years and years that we lived above and beyond our means, because it's going to be payback time.
One of the things that you've articulated in our current situation is the lack of solvency that is being discovered because of the loss of liquidity. And I love the way that was said. I think you said it in a past interview. But, can you explain why there's a loss of liquidity in a world of massive money printing? Yeah,
that's pretty simple. It's because there's too much debt, and it's like a snake eating its own tail. The debt has gotten so large that the amount of liquidity needed to service that debt, to maintain that debt, to keep the debt structure lifted and up and running, they can't keep up with it. It's almost like the treadmill's going too fast. They can't run fast enough.
And and let's talk about the velocity of money. And banks not lending. Why are they not lending? Are the banks fearful of the economy?
Well, I think the basic reason is because they're able to borrow the money and then turn around and put it into a sovereign treasury at 1/8 of a point or 1/4 of a point or whatever higher. So it's guaranteed profit. So why would they lend the money out and actually take risk? That's the view. The reality is they are taking risk because it's all in fiat, and fiat together is going to implode, and that will be your reset when the price of gold is reset many, many, many multiples higher. Yes, maybe they didn't lose in dollars or pounds or what have you, but they will certainly lose in purchasing power. But 2008 was a solvency problem. I said that leading up to 2008, I said that the problem was solvency. The world was hitting debt saturation levels. And what they did was they treated a solvency problem with liquidity. And that liquidity was created by central banks and sovereign treasuries blowing up and ruining their balance sheets. I mean, they took up the debt baton, and now there's no sovereign in the world that can really go out and reflate. And that's the problem. It goes back to Richard Russell's inflate or die. There is no way to reflate, and the reason there's no way to reflate is because there's nothing left in the world. There's no large collateral block in the world that can be borrowed against because it's already been borrowed against, and in many cases, many times over.
Bill, let's talk about gold here. You mentioned currency manipulation is now not crazy conspiracy anymore, but monetary fact. And,
right.
Let's talk about this for a moment and, what you can expect or what we can expect to happen with precious metals here in 2017.
Well, first off, stand up and do a dance because you weren't crazy all these years talking about manipulation. It's now manipulation fact in any and every market you can think of. I mean, there's no market that there's not been an admission of manipulation. Now, there's a change in mindset. There's in the world. You've got Brexit, the U.S., Italy, more than likely France, more than likely Germany. The ones who are pulling the strings, the globalists, are losing power. And it's when we talk about gold, don't think about gold going up. Think about currencies going forward, reflecting their true values or approaching their true values. And their true values are zero because they're all based on debt. There's too much debt, and they will be revalued. Now, here in the U.S., as I mentioned, Trump has surrounded himself with gold-friendly people. They understand that the problem is the money, that the money is fake. So I don't know what the number is. I can tell you that Judy Shelton, who is one of Trump's very top financial advisors, she talked about $10,000 gold back in, I want to say 2002, 2003, when it was really crazy. But she talked about $10,000 gold where the SDR would replace the dollar. I'm not sure that will happen or not, but the SDR to replace the dollar to facilitate trade with their gold, with gold valued at $10,000 an ounce. Now, here we are, 12, 14, 15 years later. So what is that number? Is it still 10,000 or is it 20 or 30,000 or who knows? The point being, to have a real economy, that have real financial markets, you have to have a solid foundation of real money. And it just goes back to what we've talked about for quite a few years now, a reset of all assets, but basically a reset of all assets versus gold.
Well, I'd like to get your thoughts here on Bitcoin, and this is very much an alternative investment. Many are excited about it. I'm excited about Bitcoin. And this is actually an alternative investment that has actually been going up while the dollar has been getting stronger, not just collapsing in relation to the dollar, but, increasing in demand while the dollar is going through its bull market, trending higher move here. Any thoughts on Bitcoin from you, sir?
Yeah, I know there's a lot of people have and are jumping on the Bitcoin bandwagon. I would just say that Bitcoin is a currency. It's a cryptocurrency. It is not a store of value. And when the financial system comes down, it's going to be interesting to see where Bitcoin is valued. I'm not a fan of it. You can trade it. You can trade it as a currency, but when the system comes down, I would much prefer to ride that out in with my wealth in gold and silver, which have been money for 5,000 years.
Sure. Well, it's certainly got a much longer track record than Bitcoin's start in, 2009?
Well, let me ask you this. What if there's an EMP?
Sure.
I mean, there's so many potential things that could lock you out from Bitcoin. What is Bitcoin's real value? I don't know. I mean, I'm not smart enough to know. But I do know that there is a potential that it could become zero. There is no potential that gold or silver could become zero.
No, you're absolutely right. I mean, even a government law that, completely rocks the market could scare everyone away from it, or, the government coming after the internet. So many different things that could potentially go after Bitcoin and, crash it down to, almost nothing. So I totally agree with that.
After Bitcoin to this point. Up until China recently, to this point, you've seen governments Bitcoin friendly.
Exactly right.
And Bitcoin, because there's not a big stockpile of Bitcoin in government coffers, they've not been able to manipulate it.
Yeah, and I suppose, if the government wanted to start purchasing large amounts of Bitcoin so that they can ultimately control it and sell it into the market to keep the price down and to take people's interest off of it, they could do that. But ultimately, if the demand is high enough...
Can they sell Bitcoin short? That's the question. Can they sell it naked short?
Right.
And they do that hundreds of times over with gold and silver and with the mining shares.
That's right.
So, I don't know if they would be able to sell Bitcoin short.
Bill, let's talk about the mining shares going into 2017. Obviously, they had a great run in 2016, despite the move from August down into December. Let's get your thoughts here on where we are. Is the bull market confirmed still? Are you confident that we are in a rising tide environment for the mining shares?
Well, we actually, if you look back, we've been in a bull market in mining shares since 2001. The second half of last year, everyone was down in the dumps. The mining shares are getting killed, blah, blah, blah. But they still ended up the year, 70% higher. By far and away, mining shares was the best place to have money last year. They were compressed, depressed even more after the election, and now you're seeing them turn higher again. It's my opinion that there is a chance that you'll see governments ban, maybe even confiscate gold. I don't think that'll happen with silver, but I think there's a chance that we see governments try to clean the streets and fill their coffers with gold. And if that's the case, the best place to have gold is in the ground, in mining shares. Many will say, but then the governments will just confiscate, nationalize the mines. I don't think so. I take the other side to that. I think that governments are smart enough to know, because they've done it so many times. Look at Venezuela. They nationalized the oil industry. They tried nationalizing the gold industry, and they get no production. The production collapses. So you very well may see governments actually funding mining shares to get into production. Now, the mining companies will have to sell to the treasuries of the country so that the countries can build up their foreign reserves for trade. But I think that governments will be mining share friendly.
And that was great. Interesting picture you drew there with, if they do try to take our gold, the best place for the gold to be would be in the ground. And, I would be curious to see what happens to the actual price of gold if there was some law that the government, outlawed it and tried to go in and collect. Would you suspect that would crash the gold price or cause it to skyrocket?
No, that would cause the real price of gold to just go through the roof.
Right.
You'd have a black market, and whatever the black market price would be the true price.
Yep. All right, sir. Well, hey, I really appreciate you taking the time to come on the show with me today. If people want to learn more about, what you do with Jim Sinclair over at JS Mindset, please share some of your upcoming announcements and anything you want to share with the audience.
Oh yeah, go to JS Minds. The site is it's a twofold site. There's a public side which remains pretty much exactly the way it has been since 2002 when he started the site. We both put news of interest up, news articles up, and we'll put a few line comment on things that we think are important. Then there's a subscription side to the site. I write 2, sometimes 3 times a week, and Jim and I do a cross interview once a week. And the interview once a week, that's worth the price of admission. It's nominal. It's $119 for the year, and just to get to listen to Jim once a week is, like I said, that's worth the price of admission on its own.
Well, you're a humble guy. It's worth it to listen to you too. I'm honored that you spoke with me today.